I had spent years covering courtroom stories, but nothing prepared me for the chaos that unfolded the day Melissa Grant walked into Judge Judith Harmon's courtroom with a fake attorney by her side. What happened during those next few minutes would become one of the most replayed courtroom moments in television history. The courtroom doors swung open, and Melissa entered with the confidence of someone convinced she had already won. Her expensive handbag swung at her side, her posture full of arrogance, her expression carrying that unmistakable look of superiority. But the real spectacle wasn't Melissa alone. Trailing awkwardly behind her was the man she proudly introduced as her lawyer, Daniel Cross. He carried an overstuffed briefcase and wore a cheap suit that tried far too hard to look expensive. Yet, Melissa sat beside him with complete confidence, certain she had found the perfect weapon to crush her elderly neighbor in court. What she didn't realize was that Judge Judith Harmon had already spent the previous night uncovering the truth. By the time Melissa sat down at the defense table, with that smug smile on her face, the judge already knew Daniel Cross wasn't a lawyer at all. She already knew he had been fooling desperate people for years, and she had already prepared the single question that would destroy both of them on national television. Melissa had no idea that within minutes she would be sobbing uncontrollably, while the man beside her was escorted away in handcuffs. This wasn't just another property dispute. This was about to become a public execution of arrogance, fraud, and stupidity. Melissa Grant had been terrorizing her Phoenix neighborhood for years. At 42 years old, she had mastered the art of using lawsuits and intimidation to bully anyone who challenged her. Her latest target was Evelyn Park, a 68-year-old retired schoolteacher who made one simple mistake. She politely asked Melissa to stop blocking her driveway. That request triggered a campaign of harassment that spiraled out of control. Melissa responded by building a fence 3 feet onto Evelyn's property, destroying the elderly woman's vegetable garden in the process. The garden wasn't just a hobby. Evelyn depended on it to help stretch her limited retirement income. When Evelyn objected, Melissa laughed and told her to take it to court. And that's where Daniel Cross entered the picture. Melissa found him through a Facebook advertisement promoting affordable legal representation. The ad was carefully written to sound legitimate without ever directly claiming Cross was an actual licensed attorney. But Melissa saw exactly what she wanted to see. She paid him $3,500 upfront. Cross promised guaranteed victory. He claimed he had 15 years of courtroom experience and insisted he knew exactly how to handle judges like Judith Harmon. For weeks he coached Melissa, feeding her fake legal terminology and filling her head with confidence. He even told her Judge Harmon was nothing more than the television personality pretending to be tough. What neither of them understood was that Judge Judith Harmon had spent 25 years as a real family court judge before television ever made her famous. She had overseen thousands of cases and developed a near supernatural ability to detect liars and frauds almost instantly. The moment her research team reviewed Daniel Cross's information, alarm bells started ringing. No attorney license existed under his name in Arizona or any other state. Further investigation uncovered that Cross operated a shady business, carefully disguising itself as legitimate legal representation. His website was full of vague phrases like courtroom advocacy and legal expertise, while tiny disclaimers hidden at the bottom quietly admitted he was not actually an attorney. Judge Harmon had seen scams before, but never one bold enough to walk directly into her courtroom. The deeper they investigated, the worse it became. Former clients described losing homes, legal battles, and thousands of dollars because of Cross's terrible advice. Some judges had even suspected fraud after reviewing the nonsensical documents he prepared. By the morning of the hearing, Judge Judith Harmon already knew everything. She knew Cross was fake. She knew Melissa had hired him anyway. And she already had authorities waiting nearby. Meanwhile, Melissa spent the morning bragging online. She posted selfies with Cross outside the studio, proudly announcing that she had hired a real lawyer who was going to expose the court show as fake entertainment. Her friends encouraged her in the comments. They told her to embarrass the judge. They told her she was going to go viral. And Melissa believed every word. Cross continued, coaching her right up until filming started. He told her to stay confident and let him handle the judge. He assured her television courts had no real power and claimed everything was simply entertainment. But behind all that fake confidence was a terrifying truth. Cross had dropped out of law school after only one semester. He had never passed the bar exam. Every single case he handled relied on intimidation, confusion, or victims too embarrassed to expose him afterward. Walking into Judith Harmon's courtroom was the biggest mistake of his life. The audience that day expected an ordinary courtroom segment. Instead, they were about to witness history. Evelyn Park sat quietly in the plaintiff's chair, clutching her property survey documents with nervous hands. She looked intimidated by Melissa's expensive clothes and professional appearance. Judge Harmon entered with her usual calm authority. Her eyes scanned the courtroom carefully before settling on Melissa and Daniel Cross. The slight narrowing of her eyes told longtime viewers everything they needed to know. She already smelled blood. The case began normally enough. Evelyn explained how Melissa had destroyed her garden and built the fence illegally onto her property. Her voice trembled as she described years of bullying and intimidation. Judge Harmon listened silently, growing colder with every detail. Then she turned toward the defense table. "Mr. Cross," she said calmly, "I understand you're representing Miss Grant today?" Cross stood confidently. He introduced himself with exaggerated professionalism, speaking in the overly dramatic tone of someone trying too hard to sound important. Judge Harmon asked where his office was located. Cross immediately responded with vague nonsense about serving clients throughout the Phoenix metropolitan area. Then, he launched into a long, rambling speech full of fake legal language designed to sound impressive without actually saying anything meaningful. Normally, Judge Harmon would interrupt quickly. This time, she let him continue, because she was letting him bury himself. Cross spoke about property rights and legal statutes, while Melissa nodded proudly beside him, completely unaware that disaster was approaching. Finally, Judge Harmon leaned forward slightly. "Mr. Cross," she asked, "in your 15 years of legal experience, how many cases have you personally tried?" Cross froze for half a second. Then he dodged the question. He rambled about settlements and negotiation strategies. Instead of answering directly, Judge Harmon's expression sharpened instantly. "Agan?" she asked. "Agan," he avoided answering. The entire courtroom began feeling the tension. Then came the next question. "Where did you attend law school, Mr. Cross?" Melissa's smile finally started fading. Cross stammered something vague about attending a prestigious institution focused on practical legal education. Judge Harmon wasn't finished. "What year were you admitted to the bar?" That question hit him like a truck. Sweat appeared across his forehead. His hands started shaking. And for the first time, Melissa looked genuinely afraid. Cross tried deflecting again, insisting his credentials were irrelevant. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Even people with no legal experience understood how suspicious this looked. Then Judge Harmon revealed the trap. She calmly explained that she had personally contacted the Arizona State Bar Association the previous evening, and there was no licensed attorney named Daniel Cross anywhere, not Arizona, not California, not Texas. Now where? The courtroom went completely silent. Melissa stared at Cross in horror. "Tell her," she begged desperately. "Tell her you're a lawyer." But Cross couldn't speak. Judge Harmon continued exposing everything. She revealed that investigators had already spoken to former victims who paid Cross thousands of dollars for fake legal representation. She described people losing homes and legal cases because they trusted him. Then she asked him one final time, "Are you, or are you not, a licensed attorney?" The silence felt endless. Finally, in a barely audible whisper, Daniel Cross admitted the truth. "No, Your Honor." The courtroom exploded. People gasped loudly. Audience members stood in shock. Melissa completely lost control. She lunged toward Cross, screaming that he lied to her, demanding her money back, while swinging her handbag wildly in rage. Bailiffs rushed forward to restrain her. Judge Harmon slammed her gavel down repeatedly until silence returned. Then she delivered the real destruction. She explained that Cross had spent years running a criminal operation, impersonating an attorney, while stealing money from vulnerable people. Moments later, police officers entered the courtroom. They handcuffed Daniel Cross in front of everyone. Melissa watched in total horror as the man she trusted to help destroy her elderly neighbor was led away like a criminal. But Judge Harmon wasn't finished with Melissa either. She turned directly toward the sobbing woman. Melissa insisted she was a victim too. Judge Harmon wasn't buying it. She pointed out every warning sign Melissa deliberately ignored because she wanted someone willing to help her bully Evelyn Park. Cheap legal fees. Guaranteed victories. No credentials. No law firm. No official verification. Melissa ignored it all because Cross told her exactly what she wanted to hear. Then, Judge Harmon exposed another ugly truth. Melissa had filed multiple lawsuits against neighbors before. She had been abusing the legal system for years to intimidate people who couldn't afford to fight back. The illegal fence survey proved everything. Melissa knowingly destroyed Evelyn's property simply out of spite. Judge Harmon's final ruling was devastating. She ordered Melissa to pay Evelyn $5,000 for property damage, fence removal, and harassment. She also referred the case for further criminal investigation regarding Melissa's involvement with Cross's fraud scheme. The courtroom burst into applause. Evelyn Park broke down, crying in relief, after finally receiving justice. Then Judge Harmon addressed viewers directly. She warned everyone watching to always verify attorney credentials and avoid anyone promising unrealistic legal victories for suspiciously cheap prices. Finally, the gavel slammed down one last time. Within hours, the episode exploded online. The clip of Cross, admitting he wasn't a lawyer, spread across every major platform. Melissa became a viral symbol of arrogance and stupidity. Daniel Cross was eventually charged with multiple felony counts involving fraud and unauthorized legal practice. Investigators discovered he had stolen over $65,000 from desperate clients. He received a 6-year prison sentence. Melissa avoided criminal charges, but financially and socially, her life collapsed. She lost the lawsuit, lost her money, lost her reputation, and eventually moved away after becoming infamous online. Meanwhile, Evelyn Park's garden was rebuilt by volunteers inspired by the story, and Judge Judith Harmon's courtroom once again proved a lesson people never seem to learn. Arrogance can survive many things, but it rarely survives the truth.